Some songs arrive quietly, no hype, no big expectations, sometimes not even confidence from the artist who made them. They don't sound like hits, they don't look like hits, and on paper, they really shouldn't work at all. Yet somehow, they explode. They take over radio stations, wedding dance floors, TikTok feeds, and entire generations, not because anyone planned it, but because the world suddenly decided, yeah, this one. What makes it even stranger? In many cases, nobody, not the labels, not the critics, not even the creators, saw it coming. Today, we're diving into songs that became cultural earthquakes, even though they had absolutely no business being that big. Let's start counting them down. Number 10, Somebody That I Used to Know by Gautier. Back in 2011, pop music had a very specific sound. Big hooks, big beats, loud, polished, radio-friendly production. Everything was built to feel shiny and familiar. So when this song showed up, it felt almost out of place. There were no fireworks, no massive chorus screaming for attention, just this quiet, slightly uncomfortable track that sounded more like a personal argument than a hit single. At the time, Gotti wasn't a household name. He wasn't backed by a massive pop machine, and nothing about the song screamed global success. In fact, a lot of people didn't even know how to categorize it. Was it pop, indie, alternative, something else entirely? And that was the problem. And also the magic. The lyrics weren't catchy in the usual sense. They were awkward, bitter, unresolved. The kind of emotional honesty that usually makes songs less marketable, not more. Add to that the unusual xylophone-style instrumentation and the stripped-down production, and it felt like a song that would quietly exist, then disappear. Except it didn't. Instead, people kept sharing it, then replaying it, then arguing about it. Listeners recognized themselves in it, in the resentment, the miscommunication, the emotional whiplash of a relationship that ended without closure. It didn't feel written, it felt lived in. And suddenly, this unlikely track was everywhere. It went multi-platinum across multiple countries. It dominated charts. It crossed genres, age groups, and cultures. Years later, it crossed billions of streams, turning a deeply personal breakup song into a global anthem. Ironically, the song became so massive that it completely overshadowed the artist himself. Gachi never reached the same commercial height again, not because he failed, but because lightning like that rarely strikes twice, which somehow makes the song even more fitting. A track about someone fading into memory, that became impossible to forget. Number 9, Old Town Road by Lil Nas X, remix featuring Billy Ray Cyrus. On paper, this song should not have worked. Not even a little. It blended country and rap, two genres with very different audiences and very vocal gatekeepers. It was short, repetitive, and leaned heavily on a novelty-style hook, and it came from an artist who at the time was completely unknown. No radio push, no industry cosigns, just a teenager with a laptop and a plan. What made the difference wasn't luck. It was strategy. Lil Nas X understood the internet better than most established artists. He didn't wait for permission, he didn't wait for validation. He turned the song into a meme, attached it to viral trends, and quietly let the algorithm do the work. And it worked too well. The song started climbing charts, confusing everyone along the way. Country charts didn't know what to do with it. Hip-hop purists dismissed it. Critics argued about whether it even belonged anywhere. Then came the remix when Billy Ray Cyrus jumped on the track. The conversation changed overnight. What was once dismissed as a joke suddenly felt intentional. The genre walls cracked. The backlash only fueled its popularity. People who hated it couldn't stop talking about it. People who loved it couldn't stop playing it. The song broke records. It dominated charts for weeks. It became a cultural moment rather than just a hit, proof that the internet could bypass traditional industry rules entirely. And the most surprising part, this wasn't a fluke. It was a blueprint. Old Town Road didn't just become massive, it rewrote how hits could be made. Number 8, Macarena by Los Del Rio. There are hit songs, and then there are songs that somehow become You don't choose them, you don't ask for them. They just show up at weddings, school dances, birthday parties, family gatherings, whether you like it or not. The Macarena is one of those songs. What makes its success so bizarre is how unlikely it was from the start. The original version wasn't even aimed at an international audience. It was in Spanish, built around simple rhythms, and featured lyrics most listeners outside Spain didn't understand at all. And yet, none of that mattered. The dance did the talking. At a time when pop music was chasing attitude, edge, and image, Macarena leaned into simplicity. The moves were easy, the beat was infectious, and the song didn't require understanding, just participation. The real turning point came with the Bayside Boys remix in the mid-90s. Suddenly, the song had a club-ready beat and English verses layered in, making it accessible without losing its identity. What followed was total domination. Radio stations couldn't escape it. Dance floors surrendered to it. Entire crowds moved in unison, arms swinging like it was second nature. And that's what made it unstoppable. It didn't belong to a specific age group or culture. Kids loved it. Adults tolerated it. Grandparents somehow knew the moves. It became a shared experience, the kind of song that turned strangers into synchronized dancers for 3 minutes straight. Critics didn't see it coming because it didn't fit the rules. It wasn't cool. It wasn't deep. It wasn't even particularly modern, but it was fun, and sometimes that's enough. Decades later, the Macarena still refuses to disappear. It's not remembered as a chart-topping achievement, it's remembered as a cultural reflex. The music starts, and your arms already know what to do. Number 7. Creep by Radiohead. This song almost didn't exist. It wasn't meant to be special. It wasn't supposed to define a band. Even the people who created it didn't believe in it. When Creep was first released in the UK, it barely registered. Radio stations ignored it, and Radiohead themselves treated it like filler, just another track to pad out their debut album, not a statement of identity. Even the title worked against it. Creep isn't aspirational. It's uncomfortable. It practically announces insecurity before the first note finishes ringing. But then something unexpected happened. Across the Atlantic, alternative radio listeners connected with it immediately, not because it sounded polished, but because it sounded honest in a way most music avoided. The lyrics weren't poetic or clever, they were blunt, painfully self-aware. It captured a feeling people rarely heard spoken out loud, that sense of being out of place, unwanted, and fully aware of it. No metaphors, no bravado, just quiet desperation crashing into distortion. And suddenly, the song took on a life of its own. Ironically, its success became a burden. As Radiohead evolved, pushing boundaries, experimenting with sound, redefining what alternative music could be, audiences kept dragging them back to this one moment. To this day, the band has a complicated relationship with Creep. They have avoided playing it live. They've openly resented it, not because it failed, but because it succeeded too well. It froze a version of them they wanted to move beyond. Yet that's exactly why it still resonates. Creep wasn't built to last. It was built from insecurity and somehow became immortal. Number 6. Theme from Shaft by Isaac Hayes. When this song came out, it didn't sound like a hit. It sounded like a gamble. By radio standards, it was already breaking the rules. It was long. It didn't rush to the hook. The groove unfolded slowly, letting the instruments breathe before the vocals even entered. In an era when popular songs were expected to get to the point fast, this one took its time and dared listeners to stay with it. The odds weren't great on the film side either. Shaft wasn't surrounded by massive hype, and Isaac Hayes wasn't a mainstream household name yet. There was no guarantee the movie would connect, let alone that its theme song would matter. But then people heard it. The track didn't ask for attention. It claimed it. The wah-wah guitar slid in with confidence. The lush strings set the mood. And Hayes' deep, commanding narration felt less like lyrics and more like a statement of identity. This wasn't background music. It was a character introduction. Pure style, pure swagger. What made it even more unexpected was how different it sounded. Soul music was already evolving, but this track fused funk, orchestration, and attitude in a way that felt entirely new. It was sensual without being flashy, cool without trying too hard, and somehow it crossed over. Nightclubs played it on repeat. Radio stations couldn't ignore it. People who hadn't even seen the movie knew the song. Before long, the theme from Shaft wasn't just successful, it was historic. It topped charts, dominated airwaves, and did the unthinkable. It won the Academy Award for Best Original Song. That moment wasn't just about music. It signaled a cultural shift, proving that soundtracks, black-led films, and genre-blending compositions could sit at the very center of mainstream success. Today, the song feels inevitable, iconic, almost obvious. But back then, nothing about it was safe. And that's exactly why it mattered. Number 5. Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. At first, listen, this song sounds like chaos. Mumbled lyrics, explosive guitars, a chorus that feels more like a scream than a hook. Nothing about Smells Like Teen Spirit sounds engineered for mass appeal, and that's exactly why no one expected what happened next. When it was released, pop music was polished to perfection. The charts were dominated by glamour, choreography, and carefully controlled images, Everything felt clean, predictable, and larger than life. This song was the opposite. It sounded messy, uncomfortable, almost confrontational. Even Nirvana didn't fully realize what they had. They weren't trying to lead a movement or represent a generation. They were just making music that felt honest, loud, raw, and emotionally unresolved. But that honesty hit a nerve. For young listeners, the song felt like permission. Permission to be confused, to be angry, to reject the shiny promises of fame, success, and perfection. The lyrics didn't explain themselves. The song didn't offer solutions. It just felt real. And that was revolutionary. Almost overnight, attitude mattered more than image. Authenticity replaced polish, and an entire generation found an anthem that spoke directly to their frustration. What makes its success so shocking is how uncommercial it was. Hard to understand lyrics, abrasive sound, unfriendly structure, yet it crossed over anyway, not by appealing to everyone, but by finally speaking to the people who felt ignored. Looking back, it feels inevitable. At the time, it absolutely wasn't. Number 4. Cantina Band from Star Wars, A New Hope, performed by Figrin Danon and the Modal Nodes, composed by John Williams. The wildest part about this song is that it was never meant to matter. It wasn't written to top charts. The audiences left theaters humming it without realizing why. It carried no destiny, no heroics, just a band playing in the corner of a shady space bar, but to a place that feels lived in. A throwaway moment became iconic, and without it, that galaxy far, far away wouldn't feel the same. Number 3. Take On Me by a-ha. This song failed first. That's the part most people forget. When Take On Me was originally released, almost nothing happened. No breakout moment, no chart domination. It looked like it would quietly disappear, just another decent track buried in the noise of the 80s. Most artists would have moved on. a-ha didn't. Instead, they went back and reworked everything. The sound was sharper, the production was tighter, but the real shift wasn't in how the song sounded. It was in how it would be seen. At the time, music videos were basically ads. Useful, but rarely unforgettable. What a-ha created was something completely different. A short film, a love story that jumped between reality and a comic book world, using hand-drawn animation and live action in a way no one had seen before. Suddenly, the song clicked. The soaring vocals, the pauses, the emotional tension, all of it made sense once paired with those visuals. MTV embraced it, and once that happened, everything changed. The song exploded worldwide. Even now, it's strange how timeless it feels. Yes, it looks and sounds like the 80s, but the emotion underneath never ages. At its core, Take On Me is about risk, reaching out, hoping someone meets you halfway. A song that once failed became unforgettable, not because it changed, but because it was finally understood. Number 2. Gangnam Style by PSI. Nothing about this song followed the global pop rulebook. It wasn't in English, it didn't feature a Western pop star, and the chorus didn't even make sense to most of the world, hearing it for the first time. On top of that, the central dance move looked ridiculous. A man in sunglasses pretending to ride an invisible horse was not exactly the formula for an international smash hit, and yet that's exactly what made it unstoppable. Gangnam Style wasn't trying to be cool. It wasn't trying to fit in. It leaned fully into absurdity and owned it. What most people outside South Korea didn't realize at first was that the song was satire. PSI wasn't glorifying luxury or status. He was mocking it. Gangnam represents wealth and excess, and the song pokes fun at people pretending to live a glamorous life they don't actually have. But here's the thing, you didn't need to understand any of that to enjoy it. The beat hit instantly, the visuals were loud and unpredictable, and the energy was impossible to ignore. The timing couldn't have been better either. YouTube was becoming the dominant cultural engine, and social sharing was accelerating faster than ever. Gangnam Style wasn't just watched, it was copied, parodied, recreated, and spread across every corner of the internet. Celebrities joined in, news anchors danced to it, entire crowds learned the choreography, and then history was made. The video became the first ever to cross 1 billion views on YouTube. Gangnam Style proved that pop culture no longer had a single center. Music didn't need to come from the US or Europe to dominate the world. If it connected language optional. It wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural reset. Number 1. Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. This song should have failed. Every industry rule said it would. It was over 6 minutes long. It had no clear genre, no repeating chorus, no obvious single-friendly structure. Radio stations didn't want it. Record executives doubted it. And yet Freddie Mercury refused to cut it down. Instead of choosing one style, the song chose all of them. A soft piano ball, ballad, an operatic middle section, a hard rock explosion, and lyrics that felt mysterious, emotional, and completely uninterested in explaining themselves. It was chaotic, unconventional, and absolutely unforgettable. When Bohemian Rhapsody was released, nobody knew how to process it. Some listeners were confused, others were mesmerized, but almost everyone agreed on one thing: they had never heard anything like it before. And that novelty turned into obsession. People didn't just listen to it, they experienced it. They debated its meaning. They sang along to parts they barely understood. The operatic section, which should have alienated audiences, became the most iconic moment. Decades later, the song refused to age. It resurfaced in new generations through films, commercials, and cultural moments, each time proving that its power hadn't faded. Whether you heard it in the 70s, rediscovered it in the 90s, or fell in love with it in the 21st century, it always hit the same way. What makes its success so shocking is that it didn't compromise. It didn't chase trends. It didn't simplify itself. It trusted the audience to come along for the ride, and they did. Bohemian Rhapsody isn't just a song that became a hit against the odds. It's proof that sometimes the riskiest creative decisions lead to the most timeless results. Now I'm curious, which of these songs surprised you the most? Was it the one that made no sense at first, the one you couldn't escape, or the one you never expected to love? Drop your pick in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, share it with someone who loves music trivia, and subscribe, because the most unexpected stories are often the most interesting ones.